Welcome back to the channel for a new series of videos from Indonesia, starting at the northern tip of Sumatra, the world's sixth largest island. I'm here in Banda Aceh, the city closest to the epicenter of the horrific 2004 Indian Ocean earthquake and tsunami. That event claimed the lives of 167,000 people in Aceh Province and nearly 60,000 in this city alone. This is my second visit to Indonesia, but it's my first to Sumatra. And one of the reasons I wanted to come to Aceh Province is for its uniqueness within Indonesia, which, as you may know, is the world's largest Muslim country. This province is the country's most religiously conservative region, and in the past, it's also been a flashpoint for separatist violence. Ironically, the tragedy of the tsunami played a role in a ceasefire between the separatists and the national government, and it opened the way for ongoing concessions that have resulted in a great deal of political and social autonomy for Aceh. For nearly a quarter century now, this province, of which Banda Aceh is the capital, is the only part of Indonesia that operates under Sharia law, governed by the principles of the Koran. What does that mean for visitors here? Well, not much, really. It's unlikely you'd notice anything dramatically different from other parts of Indonesia or the Muslim world. In case you're wondering, punishment for certain serious crimes here includes caning. There was an attempt a few years ago to impose stoning, but the provincial governor vetoed it. There's a reason for Aceh Province's reputation for its devoutness to Islam. This is the spot at which the religion was first introduced to Southeast Asia centuries ago, the landing place for Muslims arriving from the Middle East. The marvelous structure you see here near the center of town is the Grand Mosque, the original one of which was built in 1612. That mosque was a multi-tiered thatched roofed structure. The one here now, odd as it may seem, was built by the Dutch in 1879. The Dutch having destroyed the first one while conquering the Acehnese a few years earlier. Even so, the mosque the Dutch built was considerably smaller, with just one dome and one minaret. The rest of the domes and minarets were added gradually during the 20th century. At first, the locals refused to worship inside this mosque because of the Dutch having built it. These days, it's a great source of pride for the Acehnese people, not to mention the most important city landmark to survive the earthquake and tsunami. Here, as elsewhere, it's a time for families to gather and friends to gather. I was walking around here, I have been for a while, just taking in the scene here, and people freely walk up and introduce themselves to me and ask about me. One young student, a university student, did so, and it was she who introduced me to all of her friends, who were happy to see a stranger in their midst. I was able to talk with them for a little while, and one of them introduced me to yet more of their friends, a cluster of young men, and we talked for a while until they politely excused themselves and said, if you don't mind, it's time for us to ask permission to go in and pray. Which they did, but it's just that kind of atmosphere here. Unfortunately, I cannot show you inside the Grand Mosque. because being non-Muslim, I'm not allowed to enter on Friday, the day of prayer. I'm in a residential neighborhood near my guest house, which is about a 15-minute walk from the heart of the city. And it's almost impossible to walk down the street here or anywhere else that I've experienced so far without people stopping you or greeting you, introducing themselves, officially welcoming you to Banda Aceh. This is a most hospitable place. My guest house, the Mulia Homestay, is like a 3-story hotel where it seems as if you're staying in a small mansion. This is a very homey place to stay. I won't show you my room because it's a bit disheveled right now, but I wanted to show you a bit of the inside of this beautiful 3-story old building. The proprietor and his wife are most kind and make you feel like family when you stay here. For all of its other attributes, Banda Aceh isn't the easiest place for foreigners who are unfamiliar with it. When I arrived at the airport here, there was no money exchange. Well, technically there was one, but it was closed in the middle of the afternoon. So essentially there was no place to exchange money. And most surprisingly, there was no place to buy a SIM card. In fact, the Indonesian government, since 2022, has made it difficult to buy a SIM card. You have to go to a designated office where they're sold and register your phone. In a way, the difficulty that I had upon arriving in those two respects, not having a SIM card and not having any money, turned out to be a blessing in disguise, as so often happens when you're traveling, where I was determined to walk away from the airport. I had no cash to pay for a taxi, and so I'm lugging my suitcase, rolling it with my backpack, and I'm walking to get out of the airport just so that I could get to a place where I might be able to exchange money or buy a SIM card. And after walking for a couple of minutes, a car pulls up beside me, and it's a very nice family of 4, father, mother, 2 young boys, wanting to know if they could help. And I explained my situation, and they said, hop in. And they took me not only out of the airport, but all the way about 15 kilometers, I would say, into Banda Aceh, and delivered me to my homestay. And it's things like that that you do not forget. I certainly won't.
This is the man who gave me the ride from the airport, University Professor Muslim Daoud, who insisted that I meet up with him and a couple of his friends at a coffee shop. I asked Muslim how it is that people here seem so happy despite having endured so much as a result of the tsunami.
We don't think about that too much. The thing must be go on, and we need to think for our future, better future.
Do you feel that most people have moved on?
Yeah, we move on already. Yes, like my family also got lost. Some of them got lost. My close relatives also. But we need to move on.
I've come to a neighborhood within Banda Aceh, which is about 4 kilometers from the seaport. And what you're looking at here is just what it looks like. It's a multi-ton fishing vessel that washed up here during the 2004 tsunami. The devastating 9.1 magnitude earthquake off Sumatra's west coast on December 26, 2004, and the resulting tsunami was among the worst natural disasters in recorded human history. The kind of power that would move this ship up onto submerged land for nearly 4 kilometers requires a stretch of the imagination, except, of course, that it happened. It's hard to wrap your head around the fact that you're standing at the top of a fishing vessel on dry land in the middle of a city. It feels more like an observation point on the top deck where I am now, and in the background you can see, perhaps at a distance, another of the so-called tsunami assets, the Aceh Tsunami Museum, both a memorial and tribute to those who died and who survived.
Next, from Aceh Province, a boat trip off the northern tip of Sumatra to gorgeous and often overlooked Wai Island.